Hey, what's up guys? Jerry here, aka Barnacules, and in this top 5 video, I am going to show you the top 5 things you need if you're gonna get serious about YouTube. Now, to give you guys a little bit of background, I've been doing YouTube for about 6 years, and I've gone from every spectrum of ultra cheap equipment all the way to the extreme of using high-end expensive DSLRs with full-frame sensors and expensive lenses and all of that. And I finally settled into the middle section of equipment, which is what I'm gonna share with you during this video. And everything that I recommend is gonna be stuff that I use myself and have used for a very long time. So of course, the first thing that you need if you're going to be a YouTuber is a good, solid camera. Now, the mistake I made in the beginning is I went out and bought a very expensive Canon 5D Mark III with an image stabilized lens. Now, the problem was the cost of entry into that was well over $4,000 at the time. And the image quality was amazing, but it was a very manual hands-on experience to make that camera work correctly. Now, the one thing that I learned from the DSLR experience is you want a camera that balances quality on the picture side with versatility and ease of use. So after playing with a lot of options, I started using the Sony Handycams. Now, a lot of people will argue that the quality isn't as good as DSLR, and I'm not gonna lie, the DSLR does have better image quality if you know what you're doing and you get everything set up and dialed in, tripod mounted, etc. But I'll tell you where these cameras shine. This particular one I'm holding here is an FDR AX33, and the links to everything I talk about in this video will be down in the video description, so if you wanna know more about them, just hit the expansion on that and all of the links will be there for you to use. So the reason that I like this camera is, one, it's very small. This thing, you can hand hold it, it's not too heavy, it's very easy to carry around. It also has the tripod mount with the locking hole for the tripod so that you can easily mount it and get it pointed in any direction that you want. Another cool feature is that this pops out on the side and flips towards you so that you can actually see yourself in the screen when you're framing things up to shoot. DSLRs, a lot of them, don't have screens that pop out, so you have to have an external studio monitor or check the framing from the other side of the camera before you start recording. Now, the other reason that I really like these cameras is because they have a gimbal stabilized lens built in that also works very good at a wide angle and a very long zoom, which most video cameras have. That way I don't have to have a whole range of lenses for my DSLR. And another thing that I really love about these cameras is there's an audio input for a microphone, which we're gonna talk about. That is paramount importance if you're gonna get a camera. Make sure that it can accept an external audio source, because the built-in mics on these are okay, but they're not great. And audio quality is 50% of the game on YouTube. If your audio sucks and your video is good, people are still gonna walk away and vice versa. Now, another cool feature of these cameras is that you can get a small battery pack or you can put a larger battery pack on it because the battery pack is external. A lot of DSLRs have the batteries inside, so if you want to expand on the battery, you have to get a larger battery grip if it's an option, or plug in an external battery pack. This is all nice and self-contained. Plus, as a place to plug in an AC adapter if you want to run it off of house current. And the reason why that's nice is if you're shooting in a room like this, I can just have the camera plugged in and I don't have to worry about the battery running dead. Now, the camera I'm shooting on right now is an FDR AX53, which is the new camera, but it has the same sensor as the FDR AX33. I recommend both of these cameras highly for their image stabilization, their 4K video at 100 megabits per second, and the fact that they can take an external audio source. But another really cool feature of these is you can plug them into a capture card because they have an uncompressed HDMI out, which means that you can plug it in and capture video directly to the computer or an external audio recorder. Now, if you're a live streamer and you want to really up your game and take it beyond like a Logitech webcam, you can use this as your webcam, and then you'll have the zoom functionality, the color adjustment, the focus adjustment. Everything can be manually adjusted with the ring on the front of this camera by selecting each feature. So you can put it in fully automated mode, or you can control everything down to depth of field, exposure, everything, just like you would with a DSLR, and you can plug it into the computer through a capture card like the AVIO 4K if you want to capture 4K, or one of the lesser graphics cards if you're just streaming 1080p, which is more common. Okay, so now you've got a good camera. So what should you use for audio? Now, what you're hearing me on right now is a Sennheiser MKE 440 dual shotgun microphone. It's actually a stereo microphone, so I can move side to side and it'll actually pan back and forth between the speakers. Now, a lot of people just shoot mono sound on YouTube because most people watch on their mobile devices like their cell phones. But if you want to get really professional about it, having that stereo imaging definitely adds to the experience, especially if you're recording things like cars and stuff like that in a show or shooting a vlog where there's a lot of ambient sound. The stereo really pulls you in. Woo, I'm already sweating. It's getting hot in here. I turned off the AC so you guys didn't have to listen to it hum through this video. Now, I always recommend that you have a backup audio source just in case the audio that you record from the microphone into the camera isn't that good. I use a Zoom H6N. Now this, you can get a module for the top for different types of microphone like shotgun or ambient or stereo, and you can place this near you while you're recording and you can sync it up in your post process where you're editing in Adobe Premiere or Sony Vegas or Windows Movie Maker. It doesn't matter. You can line up the audio and decide which audio track is better, and you can even mix the two audio tracks together to get something that's entirely different. Now, you don't have to go for the really expensive option. You can also get a Zoom H4n or one of the more inexpensive recorders. As long as it has a decent microphone and you can put it in proximity of you, that's all you need. Now, this particular one has 4 XLR inputs, so I can also plug in external shotgun mics and position them anywhere I want so that I can get audio pickup from several different locations without me having to switch things around and recompose the shot. And when I'm doing stuff like shooting videos for Nerdgasm, my other YouTube channel, it's hugely beneficial to have one of these. Now, also, if you're on a budget, you can get a lavalier style microphone and you can pipe that into the camera remotely just with a cord, because usually, like me, I'm sitting within about 3 feet of the camera. So that would be very easy to do, and it will pick up clean audio off you. If you have a lot of background noise in your environment, the lavalier mic is the way to go for sure. Okay, so the third most important thing that you need to focus on is your lighting. As you can see, I'm pretty evenly lit right now, and that's because I have a LED light panel that's actually pointed at my ceiling that's diffusing the light around the room and shining it on me. Plus, I have some LED shop lights on my ceiling. Now you can see immediately when I turn off the LED panel, you get a lot of shadows down here and it really accentuates my double chin. Lighting is critically important. I would say that lighting is 50% of your camera, because a lot of people spend money on cameras that have huge sensors so that they work well in low light. But you'll also find that cameras that don't have the large sensors can produce similar image quality if there is enough ambient light. So make sure you have copious amounts of light in the room. Now I use the Aperture Lightstorm LED panel personally, which is quite an expensive option, but it gives you a lot of range of adjustment, and it is a light cannon, and it serves all of my purposes that I need in this room and in my environment. But if you're starting out and you're on a budget, I highly recommend that you look at something like the Cowboy Studio CFL based lighting that you can get with a softbox, and you can set that up in your room, and it's a little bit bigger, a little bit more unwieldy, but infinitely cheaper to use, and you will produce that same rich light that fills everything. And ideally, you're gonna wanna have a light on either side of your face to cancel out the shadows. Okay, so the fourth thing you should be looking at is tripods. Once you have the camera, you need a way to position it around the room, unless everything you shoot, you happen to have a cameraman. Unfortunately, I don't have a cameraman for most of the shoots that I do, so I use a tripod. And I will tell you right now, the tripod makes a huge difference, because when you're constantly moving the camera around and repositioning it for a new shot, you wanna get set up as quickly as possible and have the highest amount of versatility and height and mobility of the tripod. Now, I use a Manfrotto tripod, which I have a link down in the video description, and the most important feature of the tripod is make sure that you get a fluid panning ball head. The ball head will allow you to level the camera regardless of how long the legs are or how the legs are adjusted on the tripod. This makes it infinitely easy for you to get the camera level. Even if you have the tripod leaning up against a building, leaning up against a rock, one leg is shorter than the other, you moved it very, very quickly, and the ground is uneven, the ball head saves the day. So make sure that every tripod you get has a ball head. Now, if you're shooting from a desk like I have here, I recommend these guys. I absolutely love them. It's from a company called Joby, and it's called a GorillaPod, and they make a couple different versions. This is the more expensive version, and I'll have all of the different versions linked down in the video description. This one will support up to a DSLR camera, but they also make a smaller one that's more plastic, and it's a little bit shorter that will handle anything, even the Sony Handycams, no problem, because they just weigh nothing. This one does have a ball head, which is an option that costs quite a bit more, but again, the ball head allows you to pivot it around, and regardless of how this is set up, if you set it down like really quickly like this, you can get the camera perfectly level. Now, I'm a huge advocate of these things, even if you're a vlogger, because you can put the camera on the end of it and just walk around and use it as a selfie stick, and then your selfie stick instantly transforms into a tripod when you need it. Now, last but certainly not least, you're going to need editing software. I see a lot of people starting their YouTube channels and doing all of their editing in Movie Maker. Guys, Movie Maker is dead. okay? Don't be making your YouTube videos in Movie Maker. Now, if you're using iMovie, I'll give you a little bit more slack because it's great for if you just need to do jump cuts in your video. But if you want to get professional about your video and you want to be able to adjust the colors so that it looks right, you want to be able to do zooms and pans and effects and transitions and really tweak that audio so that it's sweet, I highly recommend getting Adobe Creative Cloud. You can get a program called Adobe Premiere CC, and it's a monthly subscription. It gives you access to either Adobe Premiere by itself or the entire Adobe suite if you spend a little bit more, and you get Photoshop, you get Illustrator, all the programs, and they all intermix and work together. There is a steep learning curve though, so you're gonna need to take classes and courses available on YouTube for free, or go over to a service like Lynda and sign up and take those professional courses to learn how to use it. But once you do, trust me, you will thank me. And if it's too expensive for you, I would look into getting a program called Sony Vegas. It's still kind of expensive in the grand scheme of things, but as far as editing software goes, performance versus price is really high. It's actually a lot easier to use than Adobe Premiere, and it will get you up and running quickly. But if you're just looking for the free option to get started out, check out iMovie if you're on the Mac platform. If you're on the PC platform, I would say Sony Vegas is about the lowest thing that I personally would work with. All right, guys, well, that concludes the top 5 things that every YouTuber should have, and I really hope that this helped you make some decisions, and all of the links to everything I talked about and some things that I didn't will be found in the video description. So just expand that, do your research, and check it out. But ask yourself the following questions whenever you're buying a piece of equipment. Does this make me faster getting set up? Is this easy for me to pack up and move around? And does this allow me to produce videos that are a higher quality in much less time? Those are the questions that I asked myself to finally settle on my setup, which is the FDR AX53, which was my upgrade from my 33, and the Sennheiser shotgun microphone because it's very versatile in its placement and it always gives me very good audio for what it is. Now, I do shoot with a lot of different equipment in different scenarios. When I'm vlogging and stuff like that, or I'm doing the Nerdgasm stuff, I will use external microphones like the Zoom H6n, and I will use lavalier mics and stuff like that depending on the situation. But if you're shooting videos in a room that's prepared like this one, and you just want to get down and create high quality content, the stuff that I just told you about is what you're gonna need. All right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this very hot and sweaty video on the top 5 things that you need if you're gonna get serious about YouTube. If you guys have any questions, come over and tweet me on Twitter. I am at Barnacules. I'm also at Barnacules on Instagram and over on the book face. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I threw it together rather quickly. I've been getting a ton of people asking me, would you please make a video on the equipment that I need if I want to get serious about YouTube? And now you guys have that video. All right, guys, take it easy, and until next time. And now I'm gonna turn on the air conditioner.